Well, it's a combination of factors. First of all, the whole essence of change is to fix these problems. That is the whole essence of it. I mean, the economy is facing challenges, and it is the primary responsibility of government to fix some of these things. First, until recently, we had a major issue with what I can call the crowding out effect of private sector in the financial market. When Treasury bill rates were as high as 17%, where federal government bonds were as high as 17, 18%. These are government borrowings in the domestic financial market. It has very significant effects on the private sector financing. Because many of the banking institutions just felt that the rational thing to do was just to put the deposits in the deposits of Treasury bills and federal government bonds. So that led to a crowding out effect of private sector in the financial market and drove up in interest rates significantly. Then we also have some elements of monetary policy that have been driving up interest rates. For a couple of years now, 2-3 years, we have been experiencing what you call the tight monetary policy. The argument is that, okay, we need to bring down inflation, stabilize the exchange rate. But it's having a profound effect on domestic private investment, particularly the indigenous players in the economy. Because the tighter the monetary policy situation, the higher the interest rate. And when interest rates are high, it is very difficult for you to do businesses in a way that is sustainable, particularly in areas in which we think jobs can be created, in the real sector of the economy, even to some extent, even in the service sector.
What impact do you think that the ease of doing business with Nigeria is highly rated? What impact do you think it has had on the ordinary man on the street?
Well, it hasn't had any significant effect. As I mentioned, we have noticed some improvement in the registration of business, so that has had some effect, possibly on the registration of businesses for SMEs and big businesses, as the case may be. That is an impact. Then in terms of issuance of visas, either getting passport and all of that, we have seen noticeable improvement. But in the area of say things like the ports, things have not changed significantly. Because at the inception of the ease of doing business agenda, there were issues about, there was the objective of trying to increase or reduce the time of clearance of goods and all of that. But you can see the situation at our ports, especially in Lagos. You can see the challenges of access to the ports. There are still challenges of documentation within the ports. Then there are also challenges of valuation, of classification, again, because the overriding objective of the customs is just to raise revenue. And in the process, the investors suffer a lot of challenges. Also in the area of even tax policy. Yes, it is good to raise tax revenue. It is good to drive for compliance. But the way we drive the tax process, the aggressiveness of revenue mobilization through tax, is also hurting investors.
Why? How? I thought that was supposed to be the other way around.
No. There's a lot of pressure on investors. We are grappling with a lot of issues of multiple taxation. There was a report recently by the Telecoms Association where they said that, they pay up to about 30 different kinds of taxes across all the different tiers of government.
What has then happened to the harmonized tax system in the country?
Well, it has not been effective. There have been a lot of promises, especially at the level of the National Economic Council. But businesses are still experiencing these challenges. And it's just not about just the taxes. It's also about levies. A lot of levies from many of the government agencies. Then the regulatory compliance fees. So it's a lot of pressure on investors in the economy, particularly investors in the formal sector of the economy.
Let me ask you about the government initiatives that they have put in place, some of the measures they have put in place to ensure that we're able to still have a development at macro levels. For instance, they have the conditional cash transfers. They also have this school feeding program and other government enterprise programs. How well do you think that these initiatives by government have impacted on growth?
Well, these are social intervention programs. I think the whole essence of all these programs is to ease the poverty situation in the country. For some of them, of course, there has been some impact, especially in the school feeding program, where it is operational and where it is effective, in terms of not just the feeding aspect of it, but the value chain, the delivery of the food, and the impact it's having on the local suppliers. Those who provide the egg, provide the food, and all of that. There has been some marginal effect. But I think it looks to me as more symbolic. Because if you look at the population of the country, if you look at the magnitude of the poverty, the intensity of the poverty, compared to the numbers that we hear about this school feeding program, I don't think it's that significant. I think what we need to do, that is good, of course, I mean, at a symbolic level. But I think what is more important is to look at all these issues in a much more fundamental way. It's about creating the environment for small businesses, for the peasant farmers, for the traders, for the artisans, to be able to also generate wealth, to be able to generate their own income and get on with their lives.
You see
and let me also say this. In all of this, there is too much emphasis on the federal government. I think we need to realize that we have three tiers of government. We have the federal government, we have the state government, we have the local government. Each time we talk about the economy, we talk about the problems of the country, we seem to focus almost exclusively on the federal government.
Okay, now,
which should not be.
Having listened to the president's speech this morning,
yes,
his broadcast this morning, does it give you a sense that we have actually moved from pre-2015 to a destination where we ought to be at the pace and resources given to at our disposal? No,
we have not. We haven't moved. We haven't moved significantly. If you talk to the average man, for instance, that's okay. Compare your situation in 2015 with your situation now. I'm not sure that you have any, good rating, because the average man will look first at what it takes to feed 3 years ago, what it takes to feed now. Obviously, that cannot be positive. It looks at how easy is it for the average man to access health care 3 years ago. How easy is it now? I'm not sure that is likely to be positive. If you look at unemployment, the latest figure is about 18%. And youth unemployment is close to maybe about 25 or so %. So if you look at the job situation, 3 years ago to now, it has not improved.
I'm afraid that's where we're going to have to the much we can take.
Okay.
Indeed. But thank you for talking to us on Sunrise Daily. Muda Yusuf is the Director General, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry.
Thank you very much.
Let's toss it over to Abuja now with Chamberlain Malkwe. And, okay, I understand we're going to have to go on a short break. And when we come back, we'll go to Abuja. Join us again.